Hello again. Today we're going to be talking about wage slavery, wage cockery, and the 9 to 5 system, and whether you can truly be free within it. Now, recently I read a book on freedom called 참자유 in Korean, which means true freedom. And in the book, it gave an example of how we often think that freedom is a system, a place without restrictions. However, you can still be free inside restrictions. Therefore, inside the system, we can still be free despite working a 9 to 5 job and being a wage slave, wage cut, as people will say. Now, the example is as follows. Imagine a boy, let's just say, turns up to class and it's movie day that day. They're watching a film. And the boy says, "Oh, I really don't want to watch the film, screw this, I'm not watching the film, I don't want to watch the film," and just makes a fuss about it. And the teacher says, "No, come on, it's film day, we have to watch the film." And he says, "Well, I have the right not to watch this film," and then ends up maybe watching it, maybe doesn't, whatever. That's where it ends, okay? So he has the right, he says he has the right to not watch this film. It's like, okay. Then, after a long day of studying, he goes back home, and his parents look at him and say, "All right, come on, it's time to study, time to knuckle down." And he goes, "Oh, I don't want to study, I want to watch a film." And then the parents go, "No, come on, it's time to study." And he goes, "I have the right to watch a film and not study," right? So, as you can see in the example, we like to pick and choose when we have the right, when we have sort of freedom to do something, as well. But in both scenarios, what was true is he had the right to make an action either way. He could have either just accepted it and go, "Okay, I'll watch the film," or he could have gone, "No, screw this, I'm not watching the film, I'll close my eyes and just sit in the classroom and not watch it." Or the other way around, he could listen to his parents and study, or he couldn't, right? So even when we're doing things that we say we don't want to do, secretly at the sort of lowest level of desire, we do, in fact, want to be doing them. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing them otherwise, right? There's clearly, for example, in our jobs and work, often we say, "I hate my job, I don't want to work, I don't want to do it." Yet, survival is paramount, and without sufficient financial income, then survival is not going to happen, right? So we are still meeting a very base want and desire, even though it might not be as pleasurable as we might hope for. But oftentimes, barring extremes, oftentimes suffering and how much we enjoy what we're doing is mental. It's decided upon our own perception of the thing. Everything is relative in life, of course. So, for example, I have a cup right here. If I hold this cup next to my head, is that a big cup, a small cup? Well, it depends. Relative to my head, maybe it's a little bit of a smaller cup. And relative to my hand, you say that's a big cup, right? But the cup itself has not actually changed. So, with that in mind, our perception is also relative to what we are perceiving, our mental state, and many, many variables, right? So it's not as easy to say, don't just be a wage cook, don't be a wage slave, work for somebody else. You should empower yourself, be an entrepreneur, and employ yourself. Now that's fantastic. If you are the sort of entrepreneurial type and that's a path you wish to go down and that works for you, then fantastic. I think that's a great option. But what I'm trying to stress is that's not the path for everybody. And it seems there's a culture, especially in the self-improvement space on English YouTube, of everyone having to be a CEO millionaire. But sort of by definition, there can't just be only leaders and CEOs in this world. We need people who work for companies. We need people just doing normal things for society to function, right? And that kind of breaks a lot of people's dreams. Some people believe they have the right to be a multi-millionaire by 25 and that's their dream life, yet reality is often quite uncaring or harsh and ruthless in that domain. But the point I'm trying to stress here is we do need people working these 9 to 5 jobs, and that doesn't necessarily mean you're more or less free, because entrepreneurship requires a lot of risk, huge capital investment. You need to be an expert in multiple fields, not just one. Sort of multidisciplinary knowledge is required, because you need to know how to do finances, know how to take care of stock, know how to deal with HR, product design, marketing, right? There's just so many facets of a business. If you're doing it as a one-man band, of course you can hire other people, but eventually you will have to know how to do it all yourself. So that's a lot of work on top of the daily logistics of setting up a business, which I've not done yet, and I probably won't. I don't have much interest in it. But you see what I mean? The hours and the demands of being an entrepreneur are so high that almost it's similar enough to a 9 to 5 that I can't really determine if making your own business to escape the matrix is really escaping the matrix. I don't think you really can escape the system, is what I'm trying to say. So, of course, if you're an entrepreneur, you can do your emails from Thailand or in Bali or whatever, and if that interests you, then maybe there's a path. But are you really any more free from work and relying on money? Perhaps not. Now, there might be rare cases where someone's business takes off and they make millions and they're done within a few years, and then they really have just all the spare time in the world, which is very, very rare. So that's probably less than 1% of cases. I'm not sure. I'll just say 1% as a random guess. I don't actually know the figures. But assuming that's the case, even then, that's an exception to the reality of most people's lives and just the rules in general. Now, even if you did earn, a few money, what the hell would you do with it? That's another question people don't often ask themselves. Is a lot of people question, the system and things like this, which rightly so, you should. But if you had £50 million, £100 million, or dollars, let's say like $500 million, something like that, what would you do with it? Oh, I'd buy, a Lamborghini. I'd go to a nice villa in Spain or whatever people do, and after enough of that indulgence, what do you do with all this money? You can give it to other people maybe, but who do you give it to? Who do you prioritize? You give it to your family, or maybe give some to family, give some to charity, give some to this, some to that. But you see, even people like Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, all these super mega rich people, they have acquired so much that it's almost hard to know how to allocate the funds properly, because you don't want to just give it all away, right? Because then I could just literally give someone else all your power and resources who might not use it for good, right? So it's not as simple as you think. Chasing this CEO millionaire lifestyle. Now, I'm not really trying to criticize the results of having money. Money's great. Money's fantastic. But I'm trying to say the process of being a CEO or being a 9 to 5 worker, really, neither option makes you more free. What makes you free is your willingness to accept what's in front of you, and also living with restrictions, because it's almost the restrictions that can make freedom to a certain extent, because you need to have a sort of a rhythm, a routine, a cage, maybe a cage that changes and is expandable. Think of like a cage made of elastic bands, right? Sometimes you can sort of break out of it a little bit, but in general, structure and rhythm is what carries you forward in your day-to-day life. I wouldn't understand how you make progress with no rules, no orientation. Even if you are a businessman, you still have to have a timetable in place, a solid structure for operating business. And I don't know, I personally think I would do better in sort of a 9 to 5 sort of system where maybe there's a little bit more flexible time, but there's structure there. I know exactly what I'm doing. Whereas with the business stuff, it's all high risk and it's all on yourself. Now, again, there's no right option. It's just I wanted wanted to say we should stop confusing the two and stop with the whole wagie, brokey kind of rhetoric that's been going around. So that was my opinion, my 10-minute take. I've been enjoying doing these videos. I'm trying to make more explainer videos, just being articulate and practicing my language. So if the ideas of this video were of use to you, you can leave me a comment and tell me about what you thought about it. Otherwise, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next presentation, the next video. Thank you very much. Goodbye.